Still going strongly in the closing minutes. Great one by Kevin Gallagher! What a goal that is! Delivery's good, there's Hagen. Now McGrillen, he scored!
It's Stokes on a hat-trick! Goal number 3 for Anthony Stokes!
Ralston saw off Robertson and delivered! Sybil scores! That's the goal! That's the moment! Samuel off and running again. Is it going to be the hat-trick? You know it is.
This is Falkirk Daft.
Welcome to Falkirk Daft, your unofficial podcast dedicated to everything to do with the mighty Bairns of Falkirk. I'm your host, John McAnally, a very ill John McAnally. This edition of Falkirk Daft is brought to you by Lemsip, Max, Flu and Lucozade. Thanks very much. So I've got today, Ross, I don't know if you've noticed, I've got a lovely background because that's making me feel warm. It's absolutely freezing outside.
Oh, it's Baltic, mate. Absolutely Baltic, innit? Like, even in the house, like, you can have the heating on and it's just making no difference, really. It's like brutal.
And it is brutal. And do you know what's even more brutal? Falkirk Football Club. Jesus. When you're feeling ill, you know, you just think, maybe, you know, it's my birthday today as well, by the way. So, you know, it's
massive happy birthday, pal. Massive.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. 42, still going. It's my party and I'll cry if I want to. We're going to get into Dundee in a minute. I missed the game because I had to sit through 40, count them, 40 children's dances to watch my daughter in 2 of them on Thursday. So I missed the game.
If it didn't feel any better, I would have swapped you had I known how Thursday was going to be.
Aye, potentially. So I had to sit through that. Obviously, I had the phone out, saw the flashes coming in from you, Ross, on the Falkirk Daft Twitter, and I was like, oh, Jesus, I'm glad I missed that. Got up the road for the second half, slightly better. We'll get into the game just in a bit and look ahead to Alloa this week as well. Ross, I've got to put a shout out. Your man in Pizza Hut, and I didn't catch his name. I apologise for that. Listen to the podcast. I was up very hungover after my Christmas night out on Friday at 11:30 in Pizza Hut at the retail park. Big fan of the podcast. Listened. You had been in previously. Didn't catch his name though, but thank you very much. Chatting way about the podcast. Great guy. So thanks very much. Shout out to Pizza Hut in the retail park for all your pizza needs. So shout out to him. And yeah, that was 11:30 hungover on a Saturday morning after a Christmas night out with 5 10-year-old girls. Jesus.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal as well, isn't it?
Very brutal.
Yeah,
anyway, enough of my moaning. I'm sitting here just starting the podcast. Let's moan about Falkirk instead, shall we? News coming in from the club. Sad news this week, Ross. Sammy Wilson passed away. Older Falkirk fans will remember him. Centre forward who scored a lot of goals for Falkirk. Actually, as a player, represented Northern Ireland while he was at Falkirk as well. Played against the likes of Spain, England. He's from the 60s. Again, I'm too young for it, but a lot of older Bairns out there will recognise him. He was apparently a regular back at the club for like the Hall of Fame dinners and everything like that, and very, very big fan of Falkirk. Spoke very warmly of his time at Brockville as well. So sad to hear that. Any recollections of him, or have you heard anything about Sammy?
I've heard the name, John, like you. I'm not of that vintage, so I wasn't fortunate enough to see him play. But no, as you say, kind of thoughts go out to the family. It's never nice to hear when you hear anyone connected to the club passing away. Thoughts with the family, and as you say, I certainly recognise the name. Yeah, and when I read the obituary, which was done really, really well again.
It was read that on the website as well. The men's team might not be playing well at the moment, but the women's team are certainly are. Scottish Cup, they beat Giffnock 5-3. They're through to the next round, despite missing 6 of the regular starters. Good for the girls, good to see they're going really well. They had, I think they started off a wee bit dodgy, but I think they've really turned the corner and seem to be going well. And
absolutely, and it's great to see the results and goals coming through. As you It's just a shame it's not mirrored with the men's team sometimes. But listen, it's great to see, great to hear. We'll share what we can on the social media pages as well if we see they've got an upcoming fixture. And obviously, I think we saw the draw for the Scottish Cup, so that was made last week as well. So great to see them going from strength to strength.
Yeah, and they've got Celtic there as well, so that'll hopefully get a lot of people along to watch that game as well. It'd be great to see a lot of Bairns on to watch the women, because they are going well at the moment. Shout out to the Falkirk Foundation. They are starting in January, and we all need it in January. Football fans in training. You'll be able to start a journey to a healthier lifestyle, and it's free of charge as well. So if Ross, you've done this before, haven't you?
Yeah, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, pre-COVID. It was a great initiative. There was a few well-known Bairns actually from memory. I didn't know everybody that went along, but yeah, no, it was a great group. As you say, it's completely free. They actually do it inside the stadium as well, so you get a kind of sneak in preview into kind of the training changing rooms, and you get to play on the pitch. It's not all about football, it's all about sort of healthier lifestyle, as you say, learning about meals and nutrition and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really good. And the big thing is it's free, as you say, which January is great for starting sort of a health plan, but it's also great if it's free as well, because it's tough going now, isn't it?
Oh God, and obviously coming up Christmas as well, you're going to be piling on the weight with all those pigs and blankets and turkey and all these nights out as well. So it's obviously a good thing in January to be doing. So if you want to get involved with that, contact the club, info@falkirkfoundation.org, info@falkirkfoundation.org, and you can get signed up for football fans in training in the new year. Another thing happening in the new year as well is the Falkirk Academy dinner. That's going to be hosted by Peter Martin and Alan Roth at the Enshira on the 3rd of March from 7 o'clock. Tables on sale now. It's £5.50 for a table of 10, £60 per person. Always good getting along to these things. I've seen Ruffy on many occasions. Always good cracks. And Peter's alright as well. Get yourself along there. And you can get involved with that. That's obviously up for sponsorship as well. Shock horror. So if you want to get that, support obviously the Academy. Great to see that hopefully coming back. Hopefully get some Bairns through that and coming up through the Academy once again and get back into that model which worked so well for us. So get behind that if you can, and get in touch with marketing@falkfc.co.uk for that. You love a dinner, Ross.
Do you know, these are good? The speakers sound good for these things as well. Anything that's bringing money into the club, obviously a good thing too. And as you say, this one is all the proceeds are going directly to the Falkirk Academy. It was mentioned on Thursday night before the game as well. Jamie Swinney and one of the commercial guys were chatting through, and Kenny Jameson actually were chatting through in the Westfield Lounge to the various sort of sponsors and advertisers that were there. They mentioned this dinner, and I think the one prior to COVID raised about 30 grand in the one night. So it's definitely very, very worthwhile to the football club and the academy. And as you say, the longer term plan is to get it back to where it needs to be, and it can only do that if we're able to fund it. Now, funding it's obviously going to be a challenge in League One. So it is events like this that's definitely going to push that on. So fingers crossed it's a sellout. As you say, it's not a shock that there's sponsorship available. Great to see that there's loads of advertisers and sponsors kicking about the club this year because we need it.
Absolutely. So let's get into the game there, the Challenge Cup game against Dundee. And every week on Falkirk Daft, we like to invite a guest pundit onto the show. And this week is, of course, no exception. Please welcome to Falkirk Daft, it's Peter Jack.
Evening. Thanks very much, gents, for inviting me.
Hello, sir. Not a problem.
Thanks for coming on. You'll recognise Peter because you'll see Peter in the main stand every single week, standing there with the Falkirk Supporter Society, drumming up support for that. So you'll know Peter's face when you walk into the stadium. He's always there, drumming up support for the Falkirk Supporter Society. How's it been going, Peter? Obviously, since the last push, we're well over 600 now. Is that right?
Yes, it is. I mean, and thanks to Ross and yourselves for promoting the FSS. But yeah, as you know, we're kind of reaching a plateau at the moment. 600 odd members is fantastic going. I always remember back to Bairns version 2, got about 800 pledges. We're that the ideal target, I do not know. But 600 is a great figure, but the club want more. We all want more. And
Of course they do.
they will be trying to do another recruitment drive in the new year as well as ourselves. So watch out for that.
No, absolutely. But listen, you're doing a fine job, Peter, drumming up support in that concourse, freezing your ass off every Saturday doing that. I mean, it's interesting that, we're talking about, obviously, fan ownership. The directors call it the kind of three-stool approach with the patrons, the shareholders, and obviously the Falkirk support side. Really interesting to see what's going on at Partick Thistle at the moment. Obviously, their board all resigned because they don't think the proposal that the fans are putting forward will work. So they've all stepped away from the club, which was crazy, absolutely crazy. So it's interesting to see what's happening over there.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and they've got a bit of politics in there as well, because I know they've got the lottery millionaire funding as well, which wasn't probably invested as the way the fans wanted. And I think there's two fans groups vying for kind of control there as well. It just shows that you need to all be pulling in the right direction. You need one fans group. You don't want all these cliques all fighting each other then the whole board goes, and then you're left. Better watch what you asked for, because then you're left with the kind of in the lurch. I mean, we're trying for obviously fan ownership, but I don't think any of us could run a football club. We still need the expertise in there for people who run the club, but ultimately own the shares. That's the ideal game for us, I think. I don't know what part it's after, if they're going to get fans on their board or what, but they are a good enough board there. But if you shout too loud, they all resign and you're left in the
do you know, I didn't realise that was the issue. So there's two fans groups trying to gain control. Is that the issue at Thistle?
I think there is, yeah. I mean, I know other clubs, for example, Blackpool, they've got a few kind of fans groups still all kind of arguing each other. So, no, I mean, I prefer the one kind of group, and over the last 20 odd years there's been so many other groups involved, all trying their own stuff, but since I rejoined and got the FSS up and running, it was to push us all in the one direction, make sure we're all agreeing and kind of helping the club and no bicker in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it seems to be doing the job. So again, thanks for all your efforts on that, Peter. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure the club do as well. Let's get into the match then. Going for 5 is now off the table. Disappointing. Challenge Cup, obviously against Dundee Thursday night. While I was watching dancing, you guys were at the match. 3 changes for Falkirk. Out went Hogarth, Oliver and Morrison. In came PJ Morrison, Hetherington and Craig McGuffey as well. Didn't start off well, gents, I'll be honest with you.
No, I did not. I mean, we barely sat down. I was in the freezing cold when our old player, Zach Ludden, wasn't scored. So we barely sat down and we thought, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, big chance even in the first opening minutes for Zach to score. Then he gets his penalty in the 5th minute, and it all seemed downhill from there. Leon McCann, don't know what he was doing, obviously getting the wrong side of the attacker and bringing it down. It just was a terrible, terrible start.
It was. McCann's obviously been doing really, really well, but it wasn't a good sort of opening 15, 20 minutes for anybody. Maybe Kai Kennedy being the exception, but it was a silly, silly penalty to give away. As Peter's just said, they could have scored even before that. I think they hit the bar or skiffed the bar or something like that. Or was that a good save? I can't actually remember now. It was the cold getting to me, I think. It could have been could have been 4 or 5 in that first half if we're being really honest.
Yeah,
it's another of these games. I know you've talked in previous podcasts about how we start games, and if we don't start well, we don't score, we're not on top, and then the other team scores, we've got a plan B. We struggle immediately, and it looked like the players already had kind of given up, be it the cold, be it playing on a Thursday night, be it live on Alloa TV, which a big draw, but they didn't perform once again. And then obviously being on telly, there was a sparse crowd, there wasn't much of an atmosphere, unless you count the Dundee not his drum. But there was very, very little to get the crowd going after the first few minutes.
I mean, you talked there, Peter, about how we started games. I mean, earlier on in the season, we were coming flying out the traps, 100 miles an hour, attack, getting early goals. The problem we had early in the season, we didn't capitalise upon those, upon the chances that we're getting, and we're going up early, into the lead early. It seems that part of our game seems to have fallen away in the last couple of months. What do you put it down to?
Again, we've talked in previous podcasts about McGlynn sticking to his formation, especially at home, and that is his plan. And if it doesn't work immediately, there isn't a plan B. The subs at half-time did change things, but I think in Paul Donaldson's interview after the game, he was saying other teams are now figured this out. Some were quick to figure this out, like Kelty, but I think most of the teams now figure this out. They do their homework before playing us, exactly how to stop us. I don't know if we're doing homework in other teams, but it doesn't show it. I think he just sticks to his guns and goes out there. And I think other teams will figure this out.
Yeah, looking at the team that went out, Ross, the starting 11, is that the starting 11 you would have went with? I mean, PG Morrison's come in for the Cup game. Hetherington, McGuffey came back in. Morrison dropped to the bench. Would you have made any changes other than that? I mean, Lawal, I think, again, this could have been a game for him. And we saw the difference that the likes of Allegri and Morrison made when they came on at half-time.
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think we needed we didn't have any creativity in that first half, probably other than Kai Kennedy, who did look up for it. He was probably the only person that did look up for it, especially in the first half. As Peter said, the subs at half-time definitely gave us a bit of something else and gave them a bit to worry about. But the game was practically over at that point because we probably weren't going to come back from the 2-goal deficit. In terms of the starting 11, though, it was a sore one for PJ in goals. I
mean, to be fair, he got really close to Zach's penalty as well. He was unlucky.
I thought he'd saved it at the time, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's obviously his first game back and he does need game time. So I don't think we can moan too much about that. His distribution wasn't great on I was going to say on Tuesday night, on Thursday night. Yeah. But otherwise, I felt he did okay. I don't think he was at fault for really the goals, just a team shocking defending. I do think we need a situation. We've now got a situation at fullback, at right back, that is now a massive problem because Mackay, as much as he's done okay, Yeats did okay, we're crying out for a right back, and it sounds like Williamson's going to be out for a long time again, which is a bit odd because he's obviously came back and then he's missed a game. Obviously, no fault of his own. You have to you have to be around your family at a time like that. 100%. It's just the timing's just bonkers. The fact that he's been back for a game and then he's injured again. It's just we nothing against the guy, but we can't have.
No, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. No. I mean, you're talking people at fault. Sean Mackey for the second, Zach Rudden. He switched off Sean Mackey. Rudden, I mean, this is the kind of striker that we could really be doing with. Zach Rudden was really good in a poor Falkirk side for us, and I like the fact he didn't really celebrate his goal either.
That's true, Jim.
Yeah, but he's the kind of player I loved it. I thought Zach Rudden was great when he was with us, and he could have had a hat-trick. I mean, got his second, easily could have had a hat-trick before half-time as well.
They had another move down the right hand, their left, our right, and got in behind kind of Mackay again. It's got an identical ball. I think that could have gone in as well, right?
Yeah. Again, it goes to just this right back situation. I don't think it's all the right back issue. There's issues in the midfield for me. Stephen McGinn, I think since he's had the Wayne, is just like we've talked about it in earlier podcasts. When you have that Wayne, the first 6 months are absolute hell on earth. You're up at all. But I don't know if that's what's affecting him. He's not having the influence on the game that he once had, Ross.
But then, John, I think part of the problem is like Peter mentioned about us being found out. Teams have really quickly realised that if you man mark again, that's a big problem for us because we've then not got that person in the middle of the park. Nesbitt was next to useless again, and he probably could have been subbed earlier than half time, to be honest. Burrell was holding nothing up front. Like, there's days where he looks awesome, and he holds the ball up really well. He chases everything. He gets the knock. Literally everything he did on the first half on Thursday went wrong, and Allegria more than deserved his 45 minutes. I actually thought Allegria came on and did pretty well. I'd be shocked if he doesn't start him at Alloa. If I'm being
that is it. It's the inconsistency. McGlynn's saying that he's putting in new players, trying them out, and they're not performing. So the subs come on and they perform, and then you think next game, right, your subs will start, and then they do, and they don't perform. And he just cannot get this right starting kind of setup.
No.
And I suppose they're looking at Dundee. If you beat them early in the season, he's probably thinking they're division higher, kind of sharper, fitter. He's trying to nullify that and putting in your two holding midfielders, and that stifles the creativity. But when you're 2-0 down, whatever, chuck on the subs, then you get the creativity, then you get the guys moving about. And they did do better second half. We're thinking, okay, that's a wee bit better, but you could start that same finishing 11 against Alloa and get a completely different performance again.
I know. And that's exactly it, Peter. The consistency, as you say, has just not been there at all. And while some of the football has been a bit better, actually, when you look at the results on paper and the stats, we're not really any better off. And I know we are, because he's the right guy. I'm sure he's the right guy to have at the club. And in fact, I don't even know why I'm doing it myself. I genuinely think John McGlynn's going to be the guy, right? And Paul Smith. But when you look at the numbers, we're not actually any better off. And I know John's going to talk about that. We're not actually any better off than some of the other managers that we've had, which is crazy.
I know I've got an interesting stat, which we'll get into a bit later on. Kai Kennedy, Falkirk Daft were actually sponsoring the match. Ross was in there in hospitality as per usual. The match ball sponsor eating his prawn sandwiches. But we were talking, Ross, we're going to put out a poll, but there was only one winner in that poll, which was Kai Kennedy. He looked lively again.
He did. For me, when we came in to the Westfield Lounge at half time, we all said the same thing, because I was like, who the hell am I going to pick? Because obviously there wasn't a match sponsor, so they did look at ourselves as one of the as the only other sponsor that night to do the man of the match. And as you say, we're going to do a sort of podcast rated man of the match poll on social media. And I thought, what's the point? Because almost everybody was ranked rotten, and it's not as if Kennedy was like Messi either. He did okay, but he wasn't like outstanding, but he was certainly the best of a bad bunch. And
he had a good few runs, and then you're probably thinking of him going into half time, because that was when he burst through towards goal and got hauled down, and then the ref thought that was time for half time, and we should have had a free kick and everything like that, and we could have had a chance. But no, the ref says, let's go in for half time.
He blew far too sharp.
That was crazy. I mean, you're free kicking and he's blowing for the
John, see, just on that, actually, see where we were sitting. We were obviously we chose not to sit right up the back. We went to our normal seats almost at behind the dugouts, and the fourth official was the biggest arsehole I've ever had the misfortune of. And I've met arseholes. This guy was an arsehole, and he was so up himself. And it wasn't even just like the Falkirk bench. He was just like, he was doing everything wrong. And our fair play, he actually, I think there was a moment in the second half where somebody did he book the Dundee manager, didn't he? Remember there was a situation where he booked the Dundee manager. I can't remember what for. There was a foul, and I had a right go at them because he'd been so bad all the game. And then fair play, he booked the Dundee manager, so I had a wee bit egg on my face there. But all in all, his attitude stank. And you don't why do we need to pay these guys? We don't miss this guy in League One. So why we go? And honestly, he was forever telling the managers, "Oh, you've pinkies went outside the line there. Get back in." And you're like, "Why? These guys are getting paid for this nonsense."
Oh, I know.
I know that was on BBC. I don't think we got all the VAR replays and all that, and we don't get the 10 minutes extra time we get in the World Cup. But these guys should still be performing better. I mean, I was also sitting in front of hospitality, and there was three guys behind me. I don't think they were Dundee fans, and I think maybe one of them was a Falkirk fan. And just listening, and they summed exactly us for the season. They're saying we pass a bit too much at the back. When we get in the final third, we just take that one extra pass, and that allows the whole their defence to get back into shape. Can't then break that down. I mean, these guys just summed up us this season.
Yeah. I mean, talking about the officiating, again, another potential penalty on Allegria, 2 hands on the back, yet again, as we saw at Airdrie, no penalty, no surprise.
No, can't. And there was 2 in the game, and could have either, but we're getting none of them this season. I think we've only one this season.
I genuinely think someone has to get shot, like, for us to get a penalty.
Aye.
Like, you'll never see a more blatant. Like, both hands were literally on his back, and the fourth official, who I honestly,
the arsehole.
Yeah, the arsehole. He was looking at it straight the same angle that we were, and John McGlynn, Paul Smith are obviously having a go at him, saying, like, you got to help here, and he just went. You could see him shaking his head and going, no penalty, no, and you're like, what the hell?
Just mental, absolutely. Of course, they're never going to help with that. Talking about John McGlynn, shall we hear from him and what he had to say right now?
John, 3-0 reverse tonight. Talk us through it.
Well, we didn't get the best start. Losing a penalty in the 4th minute of the game. Soft penalty, really, really soft penalty. The lad's done extremely well to get in the box. He started his fall as soon as he could get in the box. He's just waited on. I mean, Leon's not made hardly any contact at all. He's actually put himself into Leon to go down, and the referee's conned, absolutely conned. And for their point of view, away from home, you get an opportunity there to get yourself 1-0 up. They take it. Page's a little bit unlucky because he's went the right way and he's got touch on the ball. He's just a bit unlucky. Pace maybe just beat him. And that gave them a massive boost. A long way to go at that point, obviously a long way to go, a long way for us to get back in the game. But we didn't deal with it particularly well, and we went through a period of turning the ball over and giving them a lot of encouragement, and they're a good side. They've got good players, absolutely, you know, and they've got a massive, really, really, really strong squad, regardless of, you know, the situations that they are going with, injuries and sickness and no fill on the bench. The players that they've got there are all very, very, very good players. But we kind of played it into their hands by continuously giving the ball away, and the second goal was far too easy, far too cheap from my point of view, and we felt we had to make changes at half time to try and get some reaction. And thankfully we got that. You know, the first half wasn't a performance that will do us any good whatsoever, you know. Second half much better. It was much better in the second half, really. Much more at it, much more on the front foot, much more putting them under pressure, testing them defenders who all of a sudden didn't look so clever, and you know, we got in behind them on 2 or 3 occasions. We've had some chances, and again we've had a good claim for a penalty kick, and all these things, you know. At 2-0, us getting a goal back is game on, and we were very much in the game at 2-0. 3-0, yeah, the lads kept on going. It was probably more of a, you know, amount to climb at that time, because obviously we need to score 3, but we still created some good chances. So much happier with the second half performance, disappointed with the first half performance. The second half is how we have to go about it, and you know, we've spoke about that in the dressing room. You know, the league is a priority, but this was a game for players to stake a claim, to grab a jersey. We made some changes. It was up to players to come in and grab the jersey and take it, and that's not happening. And we're changing the team too often now, because players are not exactly, you know, delivering the performances that will keep them in the team and will keep, you know, us happy. We'd much rather be winning games and keeping the same team, but we're looking for that winning formula, and you know, in the first half tonight is definitely not the way to go about it. So we're not happy that we went out. We can admit it all day and all night and whatever. You know, Dundee are a good side, and they're sitting second top of the championship, and you wouldn't put any doubts the fact that they're going to be up there at the end of the season, vying for the first two places in that league. Absolutely. So to some extent, there's no embarrassment in it, because they're a good side, but we need to dust ourselves down, and we've got to get ourselves sorted out for the next league game against Alloa. Alloa, halfway stage in the league. See where we are after that, and a long way to go. Certainly up for the fight, but we need everyone to be up for the fight.
we need everyone to be up for the fight. John McGlynn leaving us with those words. That's interesting. He's obviously trying to get a reaction from his players. There's some players on that park that you say they're up for the fight. There's others potentially not.
There's not enough, John. You're right, and that was really evident in the first half. I was more annoyed that the attitude absolutely stank on Thursday night than I was obviously it's poor goals to lose and a penalty to give away. I must admit I disagree with John.
It was a penalty. It was a penalty.
I thought it was a penalty as well, and whether the guy's conned him or not, it's a pen. So they're always given, well, unless you're Falkirk, but because we wouldn't have got that. But the attitude was horrible on Thursday, and that was so disappointing that it was the attitude that stank. As I say, Kennedy aside, no one looked interested. I don't know what it was. Was, as Peter said, was it there was a really low crowd? Was it the crowd? Was it the weather? Is it the competition? Neither of which.
They're not excuses, because winning gives you momentum, and we need to turn this ship round, because, you know, we've had draws against Clyde, draws against Airdrie. We need to get a win on the cards, and it's all about momentum. You get that winning feeling, it transpires back into the league, you know. And it was Dundee, and like you say, they're a good team, and no denying. I mean, you look at the players that we all rated when we were at Falkirk: Alex Kugiak, Zach Ruddin, McMullen's a great player in that midfield. They've got very good players, but I mean, you need the effort, and like you say, Ross, 1,700 at the game, maybe that had an effect, the conditions, freezing cold Thursday night, but come on, you're professional footballers, you know what I mean?
And you can't really say that they were unexpected, because we played Partick in the Cup and we demolished them, with the team and all that. We played Dundee already in the Cup up there and put in a lot better performance, and the same scoreline. How come we are regressing now, going further into the season? Is it talk of the social media? Is it there's players there from the past season who gave up early doors? Are they giving up already? But we have McGlynn's own guys in as well. There should be no excuse for them. They don't know what happened last season. They should be all putting in a better shift. And I know we've got a transfer window coming up. We've talked about a right back, but there's a chance that some of these guys will be moved because they are not performing.
I mean, when you talk about, obviously, the moan and the constant is, we go back to, we need to get, you know, these players that obviously Hope put on long-term contracts and whatever. You look at that side that started on Thursday, who have you got in there? Brad Mackay, Leon McCann, who we all agree has probably been our best player, Craig McGuffey, Aidan Nesbitt, Hetherington, you know, so there's five players that are not McGlynn signings, right? But the other 6 are McGlynn signings. You know what I mean? And we can't just keep going back to that, we need to get on his own man and whatever. Someone sent a really interesting stat through to us, Ross. And, you know, I think, we're sitting in this podcast, we all agree that McGlynn, there's been a marked difference in the style of football, there's been a marked difference on what we're seeing on the park. But someone sent me a stat the other day there. So this says, and I've not double checked this, so this might be wrong, but this is what I've been sent, okay? So first 17 games from the last 4 seasons. 1920, 29 points from the first 17 games. 2021, 31 points. 21-22, 22 points. 22-23, 29 points. So level with 1920 and the 2021 behind that. So there you go. McKinnon was fired in the 1920 season after 23 points from 14. That's 54.76% of points won. Miller and McCracken fired in 2021 after 31 points from 18, 57.4 of points won. Last year was obviously the worst. McGlynn is now 29 points from 17, 56.8. That's currently a worse record than Miller and McCracken, who were fired, and slightly better than McKinnon. Don't beat Alloa, and we're on McKinnon form. Based on the previous 3 seasons' league tables, if he keeps up the rate of points accumulation, we'll finish exactly where we are today, 3rd. Dunfermline and Cove last season are over 70% of points won, which effectively equates to winning all your home games and drawing all your away games, or winning 1 in 3. It's amazing that this season seems like our best League One season by a distance, but it's just not. Some real food for thought there.
Yeah, and you could chuck into there that we started the season well, the home record was going well, and that's all gone along as well. I mean, we hope that McGlynn would bring his records from previous clubs in which was a good record. But it's just not get done yet for us. We the players, we get to stick into his style, but that's what's got him success previously, and why is it not happening for us?
Yeah. Does he need to look at, Peter, you mentioned the plan B, Ross. Do you think it's time that he looked at that formation and does he go, we always, everyone reverts back to 4-4-2. I don't know if that works in the modern game, unless you've got a really good defensive winger that can tuck in as well. We don't have that in Kennedy and Morrison. But do you think he maybe needs to look at that? Libby, giving Lawal the free role with 2 up and having 2 set in, or however you do it, Ross. Would you change anything with it?
I think we have to, John. I think I've been saying this for a few weeks now that we're not giving teams enough to think about. Even let's face it, we subbed Burrow for Allegra, and it was like for like. There wasn't an opportunity for the two of them. Now Burrow wasn't having his best game, but it was like for like in terms of formation. We were better in the second half, but it wasn't through the fact that and John McGlynn said there, we caused them a few more difficulties in the second half, and they weren't all that, but we still didn't trouble them until late on in the game. So I think we definitely need to be a bit more attack minded. I don't think we are. Granted, he's not got the team. He probably, because let's face it, right? I'm sure if he could have got rid of the majority of the 14 that were there for last season, he probably would have done it. Maybe bar 1 or 2. I'm thinking Morrison and he's obviously Leo McCann was still had a couple of years left, but I think he would have got rid of absolutely everybody else. I do think, I know I said this earlier on, I do think he is the guy that we want to have at the club, and I'm hoping he's going to be the guy that's going to take us back into the Championship and see where else we can get. But just now, I think we need change in terms of that formation. I think we need change in terms of personnel. Will that come in January? I don't know.
I don't think it is, no.
As needed.
No, there was a stubbornness in sticking to this formation, and that works well if you've got fullbacks who are wingers. You can bomb on and get crosses, get violent crosses. We don't have that. It works if you've got midfielders, the 3 midfielders that can bomb on and get ahead of their striker. We don't have that. And then you've got your one striker up front, and he's got to hold it up to let these boys get up the park. And that's, Allegri is good at that, but Burrow is not that well. And the stubbornness, the fans clamoured for Alloa to start, and when he did, it worked. So he does need to listen to what fans want, to change his tactic, change his shape. Or we're not going to get, we're going to have a similar record in the second half of the season.
It's an interesting stat that's been sent in though, John, and I think because I think we all feel like the football has been better, but it just shows you that in terms of actual points, we're not really much better off. So, and I don't think anybody, or there's not many that's going to say, "Oh, let's get rid of John McGlynn." That is not the point of the MI that you've just shared. But it's a wee bit frightening that that's where we're at.
As we've said before, it just makes every game in that league must win. It just makes every single game. If you've got any title aspirations, it means going away to Alloa on Saturday, getting a win. It means going to East End Park, getting a win. It means beating Queen of the South at home. Every game from here on in is a must-win till the end of the season. If we want to win this title, because at this moment, I wouldn't fancy us in the playoff, especially when you've got maybe Montrose and Airdrie in the mix as well, who are 2 of our bogey teams, as we know. So, yeah. Let's see what the rest of the supporters are saying. Grant kicks us off with shite, pish and rank fucking rotten. I know the league is the priority. That might be our actual title for this week's show, by the way. Shite, pish and rank fucking rotten. I know league is the priority, but how we played is concerning as well as unacceptable. As Dundee didn't need to try and won the game very easily. This is very true. If we do get promoted, we need a big improvement in the squad, as we would probably struggle.
Don't disagree with him. I think we probably would. I think we would need a massive overhaul when we do and we will eventually get back into the Championship. And when we do, I think we will need a massive, massive overhaul. Yeah. Craig says nothing really surprising about it. It was horseshit. The players who consistently let us down last season are doing so again, but unfortunately, thanks to the wanker that is Gary Holt, we're stuck with them.
Yep. Miss Chandler Bond, disgusting performance. What has happened to this team since the defeat on the 5th of November to them? Powder puff up front, Burrow and Allegri are hopeless. Midfield rotten, a man of the match in 2 games, then dropped, questionable. And don't get me started on Mackay. Get Yeats back in there. Shite.
I can't argue with much of that, to be fair.
No.
Like, what has happened? Like, that, it's like that defeat has been, like, and it was a tough one to take, but it was a tough one to take from us because it was Dunfermline. Most of these guys probably don't really, and I mean this in the nicest way, whether we beat Airdrie, Montrose, Dunfermline, for most of the players, it is just another game. Like, granted there was a full house there, but why is this just absolutely kicked the days out of them? I just don't get it. I don't. No. Dickie says, utter shite from minute 1. McGuffey shouldn't start a game for us ever again. In my head, I'd forgot how crap Hetherington was and actually said to folk around me on Thursday that he should be back in. However, wrong. McGinn looks unfit now. Burrell up top in his own doesn't work.
Yep. David, don't need the replays to show you that McGinn is now a liability. He's so far off the pace, it's unreal. Bottom line is that our whole midfield is either soft as shite or non-existent. No wonder we can't control a match. I think there definitely needs to be changes in that midfield. I'm going to start at Aidan Nesbitt. We've talked in this podcast about the space he creates. We've talked in the podcast about how great he is at bringing the ball around, getting a touch. He's got a fantastic touch, but he doesn't influence a game. And for me, when I see Lawal come on and we see him get 2 man of the match performance, as was said, he influences a much game and has done more in his small Falkirk career than Aidan Nesbitt has done this season, in my opinion.
No, you're right, John. I think that's a good shout. His contribution is he does a lot in terms of running about, but actually he doesn't do much to influence a game. Doesn't at all. Josh says, can't believe the team selection clearly played to try and hit them on the counter, but shelling long balls to Burrow and Kennedy is what we resorted to. Both not built for that style. Nesbitt was atrocious, his worst game of the season. Every pass was misplaced. He's right. McGinn looked lost. Hetherington did okay, but very one-dimensional. And McGuffey is a waste of a jersey and offered next to nothing. But what is most frustrating is the goals conceded. 75% of the goals we concede are preventable and come from mistakes or reckless passes. Never a penalty, but sloppy play in the build-up. And the second goal was just laughable. How the ref never gave one on Allegri for that push in the second half was also a joke. All in all, we don't look confident or comfortable at all right now, and I'm seriously worried for the next month.
It's a big month. It is a huge month.
That could be one of the issues. I mean, we started the season with quite a tight defence and not conceding, and now we are conceding every game, and is that causing morale to drop? Surely that can be rectified on the training, actually. All the defensive moves and start by getting clean sheets.
Yeah. David says Nesbitt has been drossed for weeks. McGuffey wouldn't stand out in a part-time football team. Hetherington out his depth. Williamson, we should look into mutually terminating his contract. Mackay not great and probably 5th choice centre-back at the club. Leon McCann has been absolutely brilliant. So David's went through them all there.
See the thing is, right, as much as the Williamson situation, if he's injured, he's going nowhere.
No.
He's going nowhere because he's not going to leave. So unless we actually pay him off, he's not going to leave, which we're probably not going to be able to afford to do. No one's going to take him.
Nope.
So I just, it's a frustration. It really is. Lewis.
Same with Jamie Wilson as well, actually.
Seb
Ross, Jamie Wilson, all these.
Too many. But see, combined, these guys must be on a couple of grand a week altogether. And that's money that... Even one, you could get one brilliant player for the wage that we're, and that's going back to Gary Holt, I know, but and that's been done to death. But the sooner we can get rid of some of these boys, the better.
Yeah.
Lewis says, "Who cares? The cup only matters if you're on fire," which we weren't. Attendance figures alone wouldn't even match the expenditure.
Martin comes right back at Lewis though and says, those asking why it matters, good performances lead to good results, and this is just another below par mediocre one which has become norm, not the exception. So that was the point I was making about just, even if there's fight in there, even if there's a bit of dig and you walk away from that game and you're getting beat 3-0 or 2-1 or whatever, you know, as long as you see a team go out and perform and give the dig and put all the effort in, you're happy with that. But that performance on Thursday was unacceptable.
It was very, very unacceptable. Last but not least, Drew. The team that started the second half should probably be the same one starting against Alloa, unless Liam Henderson is back fit. Obviously, he's not going to be. Far from perfect team, but sadly, it's still a squad with big issues, as the last month has shown. I think it's best we could put out in what is now a must-win.
Yeah, I agree with that. The team that finished on the game there starts for me on Saturday.
The trouble is, John, we're not going to, because did they not say Donaldson, or did someone not say Donaldson suspended or something like that? Is that what I read?
Donaldson suspended? Oh, Jesus.
So you're probably looking at Mackay and
John Mackey at centre half and Weeks coming in at right back, which isn't ideal.
We're still missing the club captain, Paul Watson. Is he not meant to be back by now?
There's not been any chatter about it, is there? No, I've not heard anything more. I know it'd be good to get an update on him. There was one a few weeks ago, but I can't quite recall what was said. I think he just said he was progressing. I think that was the only update.
Yeah, hopefully in the new year. Well, that was fun. Falkirk Daft rated. Who are we giving it to, Ross? Are we giving it to your man of the match from Thursday, Kai Kennedy?
Yes, I still would. That would be, even if I didn't watch it back, I didn't even bother with the highlights because it was bad enough the first time round. But yeah, Kai Kennedy for me in terms of that.
PR, you agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And he had a great few runs and got all down a few times, and he did justify wearing his gloves this time as well. So,
yeah. Okay, Falkirk Dafty, go for it, boys.
I'll go with Stephen McGinn, actually. He had one of our better chances when the ball was floated over the fence and he's left in the 6-yard box, and we think, just slot it in, no problem, we're back in the game. And it bounced up, it hit his chest, it hit his hand, it went out for a by kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know, I'll go with that as well, John. He didn't play well, and he could tell it himself. There was a point where he chased after a ball towards the dugouts, and it ran away from him. His first touch was really poor, and it ran away from him, and in his anger, he smashed his hand off the concrete of the wall. And you just think, probably broke your fingers or something now to top off a class night. So I'm gonna go with McGinn as well.
There we go. First, I think, Falkirk Daphne nomination for Stephen McGinn. So there you go. Just go to show you. Peter, thank you so much for coming on Falkirk Daft. Really appreciate you. Remember, if you're not in the Falkirk Support Society, go and see Peter in the main stand. He's there every Saturday with the leaflets getting you all signed up. So go and see Peter in the main stand at the Queen of the South game and say you were fantastic on Falkirk Daft, Peter.
Thank you very much, Jensen. I echo that. I mean, there is still members out there who are trying to tap and get signed up. I know it's a difficult time financially, and on the parks, we need a few results, and that should boost our membership. But hopefully in the new year, it should be perking up again. So thanks very much, Jensen. Merry Christmas to all the birds.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Peter. And if you want to be on just like Peter, drop us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or you can drop us an email, falkirkdaftpod@gmail.com.
This is Falkirk Daft.
Ross, we're into the final of the World Cup of Falkirk Strips. The World Cup is coming to an end next week. Who do you fancy to win it, by the way?
Do you know, I'd like Morocco. I think that would be really...
Morocco not going to win it. Morocco not going to win it.
Don't know. You don't know. They don't lose many goals, John. And I think if they're stuffy, and I tell you one thing, see if they can get through the France game, they'll win it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't look beyond the France-Argentina final, which will be tasty game of football. But yeah, I see Mbappe. Just how good is that boy?
I know. See, to be fair, do you know that would be a classy Falkirk strip as well, with the navy.
Aye, yeah.
Obviously, the gold shirt's one of the finalists in our shirt World Cup.
Oh, you've just spoiled it, Ross. You've just spoiled it. We'll get into. So we've been asking you to vote on your favourite Falkirk shirt of all time. We've been drawing it throughout the World Cup, and we got down to our semi-finals last week, and Ross managed to put up the poll this week, so that was a bonus.
I did manage the week before. I did forget, and it was lastminute.com, but this week, all good. All good. So, first of all, we alluded to it there. It was the 2015-2016 home shirt against the 94-95 away shirt. The home shirt being the blue with the gold, Puma. The other one is the yellow, Richie Cadet, Coca-Cola Cup.
double Ibrox shirt. We all know what one we're talking about. And very tight on this one, Ross.
It was, yeah. So 53.4 of the vote going for the home shirt with the gold, and 46.6% going with the yellow match winner. I'll tell you which one I voted, John. I went with the 94. It just pips it for me. Some classy nights, some classy players.
I'd love to get that. I'd love to be able to get that top. I'd love to be able to buy that top. If you're listening to the club should. I don't know if you can even get it on these hooky websites or whatever, but I'd love to have on that top. So I'll keep an eye out for that one. Right, okay, so that was your first semi-final. The second semi-final was the big one. The absolute, this was the Goliath. This was like Argentina and Brazil meeting, or like the World Cup's going to be Argentina, France potentially in the final. It was the 91-94 home shirt against the 91-94 away shirt. Both bees are home Hummels up against each other. And what result did we go for there?
Well, I thought this was going to be tighter, to be honest with you, John. So the final score with this one was the 91-94 home shirt, 60.2% of the vote. And
it's the tournament favourite. It's the tournament favourite. It has been from day one.
Yeah, it was a massive majority, and there was a good number of votes. So 266 votes there. So a good percentage as well. So yeah, no, it wasn't as close as I thought it was going to be. I thought that was going to be a proper 50-50 there.
Yeah, and that leaves us with our final, Ross. It is the 91-94 home shirt up against the 2015-2016 home shirt. Now, I can always see this going one way, and it's the tournament favourites way. I can't unless the young team come in and support the
well, that's very true. It could do, and it is the young team that are mostly on social media, isn't it? So might go that way, but who I take it who's your vote going for? Are you able
I'm going to go for the 91-94 home shirt. I'm afraid I don't actually. I surprisingly don't own that top. I don't know why I don't have the 2015-2016 home shirt because it was a cracking top, and I don't know why I don't have it. But for me it's the 91-94 home shirt all the way for me. Yourself?
Absolutely, yeah. It's
old school.
And old school, special memories, special players in it, and it's classic. It's a classic.
So I think we'll run this over a week then, Ross. Get that, and we'll gather your votes, and we'll find out what is the ultimate Falkirk strip and the Falkirk strip World Cup, which has got nothing to do with the World Cup and nothing to do with the world, and it's not really a cup because you don't win anything. We'll find out what the results are next week on Falkirk Daft.
This is Falkirk Daft.
Every week on Falkirk Daft, we like to look ahead to our next opponents, and that is Alloa at the Rex this Saturday. Very unfortunate the train strike is on, because it's usually it's a fair wee walk from the train station to the ground, but getting on the train at Grahamston or Lardbart and then into Alloa, couple of pints at the station hotel, couple of pints in Alloa town centre, happy days, walked out the game, but the trains are off, so we're all driving, nightmare. But on from the Wasps Nest podcast to preview the game, it's Kevin Gallagher. How are you, Kev?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Well, Kevin, I've got the man flu. Falkirk are a bit shite at the moment, so not great, I'll be honest with you. However, Alloa are doing an Airdrie at the moment, right? Airdrie were like all over the place at the start of the season, like pumping teams, getting pumped by teams, and Alloa seem to be that way as well. I'm just looking at your last kind of fixtures, draw with Kelty Hearts, then pumping Queen of the South 5-1, getting beat off Edinburgh 4-3, beating OG Broomhill. Well done, Alloa. Hate that lot. 2-1 in the cup, and then it seems to be. Again, and then you're getting beat off Queen of the South there in the cup there. It seems to be inconsistency, a bit like Falkirk in that respect. We spoke to the Airdrie guys last week. It seems that way with Alloa as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way to sum it up. It's a bit of a roller coaster just now, and I think that's the issue, is trying to find that consistency of putting a run at, kind of 2, 3, 4 games together back to back. That when we had that at the kind of the first quarter of the season, it was a real feel good about the club, the supporters, the team, everything like that. And, it's seen us kind of propel ourselves up the league. And we just need to try and find that again. I think, you look back at the games, there's been plenty of goals. I think the Montrose game was the first 0-0 we've had for about 62 or 63 games. So there's been plenty of entertainment, put it that way.
Yeah, it's Rice settled? I mean, has he got you playing the kind of style that Ricey likes to play? Has he got a settled first 11 now, Kevin?
It's tough to say. I mean, we are massively struggling with injuries at the moment. Kind of first part of the season, we had a couple of guys missing at the back, Mark Durnan, Craig Howie. So we were a little bit light at the back. We've seen, and this is something that Hamilton supporters told us would happen with Rice, is he quite often will play players out of position. So we've seen the likes of Kevin Colley playing quite a lot at right back. We've seen Scott Taggart, who's traditionally a right back, playing a lot at centre half, playing very, very well at centre half, but it's not his best position. We've seen likes of young Cammy O'Donnell, who's really a central kind of attacking midfielder, has been playing at left wing back or even left back. So we've been a bit all over the place in terms of that. Just now we're massively struggling in midfield. And it's just play. We had Luke Donnelly's went out with a broken foot last week as well, and John Robertson went off at the Montrose game. Stefan Skugel's been struggling a little bit with injuries lately, so we've maybe not had a settled starting 11, but it's not really been through choice. It's kind of, his hand's been forced with that.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Salmon still seems to be doing the business for you, 9 goals and 21 appearances, doing all right for you. He's certainly doing better than he ever did for Falkirk, that's for sure.
Do you know, John, I had a similar conversation with him 2 weeks ago because I bumped into him, but it was the most awkward 2 minutes I've ever had. So I was, you remember a couple of weeks back when the school strikes were on?
Yes.
And teachers were off. And so I'm with my daughters at the Marner Centre at the swimming pool. And then in walks Connor Salmon with his family. And he's obviously a fairly energetic fella. He's hits the gym, as you can probably tell. And then he spots my Falkirk tattoo. And you know when you have that moment where you're like, right, suck in the tummy, Ross here, suck in the tummy, son. And he's blethering around. I said to him, well, you're doing all right. He's doing all right. And then he was like, yeah, I struggled at Falkirk. And he was just so kind of surreal about it, But nice guy. But yeah, he's definitely doing better there than he did with us, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think he's participated in pretty much every competitive fixture we've had this year. In terms of the goals, I mean, his goals at the first quarter of the season were so invaluable to us. And he was on fire at the start of the season. It's dried up. It's definitely dried up now. I think his last goal was actually the reverse fixture at the Falkirk Stadium, where he got the consolation right at the end. So there's a lot more to his game. He does well bringing other players into the game, but there's maybe starting a little bit just now just to worry a little bit about where the goals are going to come from. The caveat I'd probably put to it is if he's going to score against anyone, it's going to be Falkirk.
Oh, of course it is. Who again? Since the last time we spoke, Kevin, who have really been the standouts, barring the kind of injury? Has Alford been doing the business for you?
Not really. We've not seen enough of Kieran Alford. I think he's been unfortunate that he's obviously been away with the Scottish age group teams as well. So he's really struggled for any kind of run of games, consistently like that. Certainly myself and Kieran on the podcast are massive fans of him. We went on a huge preview of him before the cup game last week to only then figure out afterwards that he's already cup tied through St Mirren B. So yeah, a bit of egg in the face for that. But I think he's a huge talent. Scored a really good goal against Queen of the South. But then again, he was there in the following week. He was away with the I think it's the 19s that he's been involved in. So we've not seen enough. He's not had a consistent run of games, a run of starts, and it's been. I would say his Alloa career so far, his spell with us has been very, very stop-start. In terms of who's kind of stood out, since we played yourself, Scott Taggart has been an absolute rock at the back. He has been, I think, ever present this season. Not missed a minute. Played the majority of this season at centre half, either as part of a back four or a back five. But he's been phenomenal up until probably last week. Luke Donnelly for about the last 4 or 5 weeks has probably been our number one form player. Unfortunately, he's now out with a broken foot. So that's a real sickener, not of an LD for this game.
Yeah. You mentioned their formation-wise. So are you playing a kind of 5-3-2? What formation are Alloa playing at the moment, or is it does Ricey mixing it and matching it?
That's putting it mildly, put it that way. So there's hardly been a game this season where we've not changed formation at some point during the game. We've seen games where we've changed formation.
Have a chat with John McGlynn.
4 times. Part of it I think is Brian Rice has talked before about looking at who we're playing against and setting a formation based on that. I'm not as much of a fan. I think, you have to take the opposition into account a bit, but to me, I'd rather see him find, our kind of style and how he wants us to play and get more consistent with that. In terms of Saturday, so we on Friday night we went to started with a back four. At halftime we changed to a back five. I think our gut feeling generally is that this week we might see a back five. We've typically played, if we've went a back five, we've played a 5-3-2. When we've went for a back four, it's been a 4-4-2 with basically a diamond midfield. I just have a feeling on Saturday he might go a kind of five at the back, three in midfield, maybe one sitting between the midfield and up top, and then just one on their own up top.
Interesting to see if Falkirk actually adapt to that then, because certainly as we've been talking about on this episode, it seems to be John McGlynn. He has a set formation, has a set idea, and he won't. I mean, it's the opposite. We'd like to see him switching it about, but there you go. What's the score going to be, Kevin?
So I've went for one each. I think we recorded just before we came on here, and we kind of talked about, is it a must win? Is it a disaster? If
I mean, you beat us, you go above us in the table. I mean, that's the facts of it.
That's exactly how my approach to it would be. Look, it's a home game. You want to win all your home games. If you want to be anywhere at the end of the season, you're going to have a really good, strong home record. I think if Alloa do get beat, getting beat by Falkirk, there's no shame in that. To me, Falkirk are second best squad. They're certainly up there with the best two teams and best two squads in the division. So it's not a disaster to not take anything from it. Do I think we're going to go and win it? I mean, we could. I think if we basically do the opposite from what we did in the other fixture, and we don't let you score in the first 10 minutes, I think we might don't let you score twice in the first 10 minutes. We might give ourselves a bit of a chance then. I think if we can frustrate you maybe for the opening 25 minutes, half an hour, I then start to think I could probably then see us going on to win it. I think it'll be a one each draw though.
Interesting. Is playoffs still the aim?
It is. I mean, I think personally, I kind of predicted Alloa to finish. I think I had them predicted 5th for the end of the season. I think the position we're in now, I think anything, you can't not be looking for the playoffs. In terms of winning the league, to me, I'll be honest, you guys might not like this, I don't see anyone overthrowing Dunfermline at the top. I think they're solid, if not spectacular, and they just get the job done, and McPake's got them grinding out results. I don't see them getting caught at the top. I then think, I mean, you basically got 6 teams really going for the kind of 3 playoff spots. And what we kind of talked about before, I think January might be the key to it. A couple of teams that have the best couple of teams that have the best January window, to me, that might be the difference in making the playoffs or not. For us, 100% you've got to be aiming for getting into the playoffs. To me, I think our ceiling is probably maybe kind of 3rd. That's maybe about as high as I reckon we could get. It's not a disaster if we don't make the playoffs, but that has to be the aim from now on.
Yeah. Well, listen, Kevin, thanks very much for coming on. It's Kevin from the Wasps Nest. If you want their preview, check out their podcast ahead of the game on Saturday. And thank you once again for coming on Falkirk Daft.
Thanks very much, guys.
This is Falkirk Daft.
And that is it for this week's Falkirk Daft. Thank you very much for listening or watching. If you're looking on the YouTube, looking at me ill in my paradise island behind me. If you're listening on the Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, that'll make absolutely no sense to you. Thanks very much to Peter, our guest Kevin from the Wasps Nest as well. Remember, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Falkirk Daft. Get on the YouTube, subscribe, like and subscribe, comment below, people. Do that, please. And you can get on the Discord chat as well. There's lots of chat going on there. And if you want to sponsor the show, you can do that. We've had lots of good sponsors on the show. If you're a local Falkirk business, want to get your name out there in Falkirk Football Club's most successful podcast. Over 1,000 Twitter followers now, Ross. We've done all right.
We've done well there, and Facebook's 600 or 700 as well. So social media wise, it's great, and there's always loads of good interaction. There's the odd Dunfermline fan who pops up, obviously, but we put them back.
block.
No, I like to. You like to have a bit of banter when first.
Like a bit of needle on there, aye. So get on the socials as well, and if you want to sponsor us, drop us an email, falkirkdaftpod@gmail.com. Right, we're off to Alloa on Saturday. Roscoe, I think if I'm feeling like I'm just out, I won't be going, but I'm hopefully going to be fit and ready and healthy for the game and steal a lift off you.
Rest up the next few days. Keep drinking your Lucozade. Yeah, because it's not a big birthday, this one. That's not why you're feeling down, is it? So it's not
42. It's rotten, terrible. I mean, it's like 42 and following Falkirk all those years. It's brutal, isn't it? It's brutal.
Well, I'm only 41, but I have been, obviously, as you know, following Falkirk for a long time too, so it does get to you eventually, doesn't it?
I know, another few years to go. Right, so there, and that depressing note, let's finish up Falkirk Daft. We'll see you hopefully at Alloa on Saturday. And until next time, Ross.
Expect the unexpected, buddy.